One of the brand new features in MicroSurvey CAD 2013 is a new CAD engine called IntelliCAD 7.2. And what we're going to do is show you some of the general new features. So to start with, we're going to look at some new snap modes. And so I'm going to rotate my crosshair so they match one side of this building. And then we're going to start drawing a deck along the back. I'm going to turn on my entity tracking and polar tracking modes. And this E-Track button down here is a new feature for 2013. One thing you do need to check is just make sure auto snap variable is set to 31. And then you can continue. And so in this, what we're going to do is just draw a deck starting from this corner. So I'm going to start the line command, and I'm going to snap to the endpoint. And that green dashed line you see, that is the polar tracking. And if I just drag along that line, I'm going to enter in my first distance here, which is 20. And then I'm going to go this way 10. And then I'm going to go up 10. And one of the features I want to show you here is you should see there's little red X's that are appearing in the drawing, and those are called temporary markers. And from those markers, what they do is it'll project those green lines from them, and those help you draft lines that are exactly the same as using the ortho mode with your F8 key. But a few things you can do is if you hover your mouse over different objects, and depending on what running snaps you've got turned on, and currently I've got my endpoint snap and midpoint. Here I'm going to hover over the midpoint of this line, and you'll see a little marker has been put there. And I'm going to hover over the endpoint over here, and another marker has been put there. So you can think of these, they're like construction points. And when you start hovering your mouse along those points, it starts radiating lines out, and that helps you draft. So what I'm going to do here along the back is I'm going to draw a line here to basically the midpoint of this line. And then I'm going to come down this way, and I'm going to set a marker here, and I'm just going to pick down there. And so this is a perfect way. Sometimes you may not know exactly what dimension you need to enter in, and it just lets you set some markers, and you can basically let the system figure out the intersections for you. And then we're just going to close off to the end here. The old way of doing something like this, if you didn't know dimensions, is you would have had to have just offset lines and use the fillet command to trim them off. So as you can see, this can save you a lot of time. So now we're going to draw a little chimney in here. And I'm going to do that, start the circle command. And I'm going to use this new mode here called snap from. And from the corner of this building, I'm going to enter in a relative coordinate 0.5 in the X and 5 in the Y. And so what that let me do is I specified a point that I wanted to enter in an offset from. And the radius for my chimney here is 0.5. And so I got to put that circle in. So again, very quickly I was able to specify the center of this circle based on the corner of this building. So now we're going to go back to world view, and we're going to draw a line, and I'm going to start it. And what I want to do is I want to pick a point along the ray of this side of the building, and we're going to do that by using this extension line snap. And so I'm just going to hover here over the wall and just move along here, and I'm just going to enter in a distance here of somewhere in the middle of the property line. And then what I want to do is I'm going to use this parallel snap, and I'm going to hover over this property line here, And what that's going to let me do is specify a line that was parallel to this property line here that I hovered over. Okay, so that's it for the new snap modes, and as you can see, there's some nice new options that have been added there for snapping, and the new entity tracking feature where you can just hover over different parts of your drawing, and based on your snaps, it puts markers that allow you to quickly draft in different objects. So the next thing we're going to look at is some enhancements for grips. When you click on lines and arcs, you'll see these lines on the end here that basically just let you quickly extend or shorten lines. Some of the other things you can do with that, if you click on it, you can also, instead of trimming a line or extending a line, you can just snap and just use an intersection snap. I can do the same thing here. Now some of you might have said, well, I could have just offset this line here, and you could do that, but what it'll do is it'll offset that line but also use the same color and layer of the line you offsetted, whereas this lets you draw a new line on a specific layer, and you can quickly make it parallel to another line and just use those new snap or grip modes to extend it or shorten it and snap to specific lines to trim it. Okay, so another new feature you can look at is if you double click on an entity, there's a new properties dialog that just docks along the default is the left side of your drawing screen, and when you click on different entities in your drawing, it gives you a lot of very useful information about that entity. So here we clicked on this line. You know, some important things is a lot of times you like to know what layer it's on. So if you wanted to, you could change the layer right here. You could change its color. You can look at some of the endpoints, the coordinates, basically the geometry for that line, including the distance and angle. If you click on an arc, same type of information appears, again including the geometry, and you can select on multiple entities at the same time, and you're going to see here it says I've got 3 arcs selected. If I clicked on a line, I can look at the properties for all 4 entities, or just the arcs, or even just the line if I need to. And if I set it back to all, for all these things I've got highlighted here, I could right here change the layer for all those entities. And same thing applies if you just do a window crossing over a group of entities. You can just come in here and change the layer for all those entities if you really wanted to. You can turn it off so it just automatically docks along the side here, and if you hover your mouse over it, it reappears. You can just pin it if you want to, or you could close it altogether. And that's the new properties dialog. Some enhancements to the IntelliCAD Explorer have also been included. You'll see it looks a lot more modern. It's easier to distinguish which layers are on and off, what layers are locked or frozen or thawed. And some of the new items that you can control now from the IntelliCAD Explorer is you can control the layouts from right here. You can also control groups if you are using groups in your drawing. External references can be handled directly from the IntelliCAD Explorer now, including images. So if you've inserted any images or underlays, that'll all show up here now. And one thing I just want to make a note of that a lot of people don't know, if you have multiple drawings open at the same time, you can drag items back and forth. So if you had some, for example, if you had some blocks in this drawing that you wanted to use in this other drawing, let's just see what I got here. Now let's just pretend this block here I want to use. So I can just drag that over to this drawing. And you're going to see that ICM AP is now available here. and maybe this one too. And you just drag them back and forth. And same thing applies for layouts or line types, text styles. Anything can be just dragged back and forth between your drawings. Purge command is used a lot. You just type in purge, you'll see there's a new dialog now instead of doing it all from the command line. It's a lot easier to use, so you can just visually look in this control tree here and choose what items you want to purge simply by just selecting them. And those are some of the new general features inside IntelliCAD 7.2.